A little over 2 weeks ago, I bought the Lambda Synthetics PolyPulse. I was really excited to make this video. It took me longer to get to know this than other devices because it's so different. So today I'm gonna go through a lot of the key features and give you my overall opinion of this, because it truly is, I think, something special. So let's get to it. The first thing that I want to talk about is the build quality. This is very well made. The standard of build quality for me would be the ASM Hydrosynth. That's a synthesizer that I consider to be a 10 out of 10. If you own one or you've played one, you know what I'm talking about. I put this in the same category as the ASM Hydrosynth. It is basically semi-industrial, and the case is metal, and they have really gone and paid very close attention to detail on certain things. Like, for example, they have these tabs at the top, these metal bars that are sticking out, so that if you were to place this on the other side, this side down, that it wouldn't mess up these knobs that are on the front. And since we're talking about knobs, I want to mention that these knobs and all of the jacks are bolted to the case itself. So they're not mounted internally on PC boards. They're actually physically mounted to the outside of the case. The potentiometers are also made of metal. They don't have plastic shafts like you would find on less expensive equipment. It is heavy, sort of, but it's very, very well balanced, so that even though it's heavy, it's not awkward in any way. The weight is very evenly distributed. The keys, I want to mention that these keys are, again, like a power plant industrial control panel, these buttons right here, and they're actually sturdier than what you would find on most high-quality gaming keyboards. They make a satisfying click when you push them in, and just overall I am very impressed by the build quality. To power on the PolyPulse, you simply plug in the 5-volt adapter jack in the back. And then you'll see that there is a light that turns on in the upper left-hand corner. That light goes out, and then you may be thinking to yourself, is it on? And you may also ask yourself, where's the power switch? It doesn't have one. And I think one of the reasons why it doesn't have one is so that it ensures that whenever you shut it down, you'll do so properly, because it does have a easy and quick shutdown procedure that's kind of like shutting down a Windows or Mac PC, where you don't actually push a button. As you can see, it boots up fairly quickly. It's not instant by any means, but it's quick enough. I'm not real good at programming FM, so for this FM example, I've actually loaded a patch that is included with the PolyPulse when you buy it. So this is a good time to explain that this is divided into 5 different tracks. And those tracks are basically like sound engines, but also contain the patterns. Within a track, you have the ability to assign to each of the 4 corners of the track pad 4 different sounds. Now, they're all going to be part of the same sound engine that you choose for that track. Those 5 sound engines that you can choose from are additive, subtractive, FM, granular, resonator, and something called the quad engine.
You are a voyager. You are a voyager. In time and in you are a voyager.
Okay, I want to talk about patterns, note lists, cues, and motion now. Patterns go along with the track. Those are not shared between the different tracks. They're assigned to that track. So that means that you have 25 different patterns that you can use per track. See here, I don't have additional patterns programmed, but if I did, they would be shaded inside of the box. In addition to that, you've got note lists, but note lists are global. So there's 125 possible patterns you can have for the entire project, because each track has its own 25, but that doesn't go for note lists. For note lists, you have 25 global note lists that are shared amongst the different tracks. So you see here that I have different note lists. Let me open up this note list right here and see what's inside. I'm going to select Edit Note List, and you can see the notes here. And I know it's a little weird, but just trust me that once you get the hang of this, you're going to understand it. Here you can change the pitch and you can change the velocity. And other things, I think. Oh yeah, the note type. So you can make it where it's a normal note that responds to the keyboard as you would expect. Or you can make it where it is a slide. It can be a rest. And it can be basically like a slide rest where it doesn't sound, but it still slides. And you have to play with it to be able to understand it. That's the only way you're going to get the hang of this, is just keep messing around with it, keep playing with it, keep trying different things, and eventually it'll start to get more and more clear. Okay, there's also something called cues, and what cues are basically kind of like macros. If you understand macros, like if you've ever programmed in Visual Basic or use macros, it's kind of like the area where you would sequence different actions together. Like you can have different patterns triggering at different times. They don't just trigger linearly based on time, but there are various different types of events that can trigger these macros. And like a regular macro that you would use in programming, you can have if statements in there. And so I'm not going to get into how to program that right now. You can look in the owner's manual, like I said, the manual that's online on the Lambda Synthetics website. That's the best way for you to get a decent understanding of it. But to really truly understand it, you're going to have to play with it for yourself. It seems really strange when you look at it at first if you've never done any kind of programming before, but if you just try it and go step by step and just see what happens, then you're going to learn what it does. It's very, very cool, very cool. But you can create and build up entire songs using those cues, and there's 25 of them all together. Motion loops allow you to record the motion of the pads. In the upper left-hand corner, you can see what my finger is actually doing. Well, you can select a motion list. You can't use 0. I'm not exactly sure why that is, but I guess because it always allows you to go back to a point where there is no motion going on. Okay, this will be a good one to demonstrate it with. I'm going to go ahead and start recording that motion. Okay. Okay, and then you can see in the upper left-hand corner that that is still playing. So when I hit a note, that motion is morphing all those different parameters. It's acting like automatic modulation source, basically. Then you select that blank motion slot again, slot 0, and then there's no more motion, or any other blank slot. Now the cool thing is, again, that since those motions are global, you can have that exact motion that I recorded right there on 4 or 5 different instrument tracks at the same time if you want to. So pure insanity, man. I'm telling you. This thing really, this is why I'm obsessed with this, because there's just so many weird things that you can do with this that you can't do with anything else. It has so much potential, and I think one of the reasons why more of these haven't sold is probably because there needs to be more videos like this out there so that people really have a good understanding of what this thing can do. And I think that, you know, if people just get their hands on one and try it, and then more people make videos, I think that this really could be a very successful product and, you know, really take off. And I hope to see that it does, because I would love to see future iterations of this, future versions and different updates. And the only way that's going to happen is if people support Lambda Synthetics by buying their products. Okay, something that's really cool about the quad engine is that you can assign 8 different samples to each corner. So you've got 8 on one corner, a different 8 on another corner, and so on and so forth. And the way it morphs between those samples is really weird and unpredictable. But I really like what it does, because you're going to get something different every time. And you can mix and match different sample types. So you can have a sample that is responsive to the keyboard pitch, and then the other samples are more rhythm-based. So let me go ahead and show that to you right now. In this corner right here, I have something that is responsive to pitch. Look really closely how the different samples change as I move my finger. So just imagine the possibilities of what you can do there. In addition to that, you can have not just single samples in each corner, but you can have assigned to each of those samples. It's not a single sample. It can be a list of samples. So a different list for each of the 2 samples. So in other words, 8 lists of samples in each corner, and each of the samples within those lists play consecutively with each pulse. Or if it's a pitch type sample and you have several pitch responsive samples in the sample list that I started out with, then every time I hit a key, it's actually going to cycle through different pitch samples. So I know it's kind of confusing, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of how crazy this thing is. All the different things that you can do is, like I said, very, very different than any other groovebox type thing like this that I've had. Okay, so whenever you fire this up, the first thing is you'll see that in track 1, there is a subtractive sound engine preloaded, and there's a very simple pattern that's assigned to that track as well. To activate that pattern, that pulse, you go ahead and hit the clock button. The clock button is basically the same thing as a play button or start button. Then you have to also make sure that that pulse is activated by hitting the black key that corresponds with that pulse. Okay, and with that going, we're going to go ahead and quickly modify this sound engine so that you can see how easy it is. All right, so we're going to go ahead and using these knobs here, these knobs correspond to the settings in the sound engine itself, and sometimes the black buttons do as well. It just depends on which sound engine you're using. It's very, very easy to make modifications. The first thing that I like to do is go down to the envelope. So if you use the Y control, it's going to bring you down to the envelope section. And I'm going to go ahead and make those envelopes bigger, longer rather. While I'm thinking about it, I'm going to go ahead and set the polyphony to something greater than 1. In this case, I'm going to set it to 2 for this engine. Go back here. There's another envelope related to the subtractive engine that I'll go ahead and move out. And then the third envelope is for noise. I'm not going to go into every single detail of these sound engines, but just that you get an idea how easy it is to make a sound and to change it very quickly. We'll go an octave down. Pretty ordinary type subtractive synthesizer sound. We're going to set that to that corner so that it stays there by pushing the button that corresponds to that corner. Now let's go ahead and copy that over to all of the corners. So now that same sound is in every corner. There's no change when you go from one to the other. All right, but now let's go ahead and start making some changes. So for this corner, we're going to simply change the envelopes. The first envelope, we'll make it short. Okay, that's the only change I'm going to make there for now. But we're also going to make some changes to some of the other settings. Okay, so now we've got two completely different sounds in one corner from the other, and then we're going to go ahead and morph between those. Now let's make a sound for the other corner. Let me just show you how quick this is. We just go in between those two. I like that sound, so we're going to go ahead and assign that to this corner. Now let's go between this one and this one, the top and the lower left. That's interesting, so we're going to assign that to another corner. Okay. And the envelopes are changing at the same time, so we'll go ahead and show you that. I want to modify this, so I'm going to change this envelope here. Resave it. Okay. Now let's go back to this corner here and make some adjustments to the filter. Oh, wait a minute, maybe I don't like that. Just hit revert and it goes right back. Okay, let's go ahead and start that pulse up again on the sequencer. Make sure that that is active. These 4 black buttons correspond to the 4 different pulse options inside the sequencer pattern. And start it with the clock button. change the interval so that it's going at twice the speed. Now it's triggering notes at twice the rate as it was before. So you can see that it's really quick and easy to make completely new sounds. Unlike other groove boxes and synthesizers that I have in my studio, with the PolyPulse, I don't find myself using presets as often because it's just really fun to start from scratch and then just make something new every time. It's easy and it's fun. I do think that the PolyPulse is a really great instrument for those who can connect with it the way I have. You know, as I said, it's very, very well made, and it does things that nothing else I've ever used does. As far as alternatives to the PolyPulse, I really can't think of anything that does exactly what it does. I mean, I wouldn't say that there is any direct alternative. Certainly you can get, you know, great live performances out of a lot of different other devices that, you know, I don't even need to mention, but there's lots of different groove boxes out there. There's just nothing out there that's packaged the same way that the PolyPulse is, with those XY controllers, and the way that it does that algorithmic sequencing is just very different. The motion recording that I mentioned and the cue, there's something about the way that you have to concentrate whenever you're making music on the PolyPulse, whenever you're designing sounds and you're working with those cues and you're tweaking the patterns, the pulses, and lining up the pulses in different ways, and then chaining things together and adjusting the start and stop times until you get the sound that you want. It's very intentional. You know, you still get lots and lots of accidents. I mean, that happens all the time. And when I say accidents, I mean happy accidents, you know, where you get something you didn't expect and it turns out to be really good. But whenever you want it to do specific things that you already have in mind, that can be a little challenging until you really, really get to know how this machine works, because it is not the same as any other kind of traditional sequencer that exists that I'm aware of, except maybe some modular stuff. If you like this kind of content, I'd really appreciate it if you consider liking and or subscribing if you haven't already. I'd also like to hear your comments. You know, maybe there's reasons why you have or have not bought a PolyPulse yourself. Maybe you're thinking about it, or maybe you got questions. And I'd really love to hear those, and I'll do my very best to answer your questions if I can. So thank you for watching, and have a great day.